I never thought I'd be one of those guys posting here, but here I am, 54 years old, sitting alone in my small apartment, typing this on a Sunday night because the silence has become too heavy to bear. I've lived a pretty ordinary life. Nothing fancy, nothing tragic, until recently. Married for 27 years. Had a steady job, raised 2 kids who are now grown and gone. I had a small circle of friends, but one of them wasn't just a friend. He was my brother, not by blood, but in every way that mattered. His name's Greg. We met in our early 20s, both mechanics at the same shop. He was wild, funny, the kind of guy everyone liked instantly. I was quieter, more grounded. We balanced each other out. I was best man at his wedding. He was best man at mine. When my dad passed, he was there before my own relatives. When my son was born, Greg was the first to hold him after me. He was family. When my wife, Linda, started working from home during COVID, Greg began stopping by more often. At first, I was glad. He always brought laughter into the house, and Linda liked him. They'd tease each other, joke around. I didn't think much of it. Hell, I encouraged it. I thought, great, she's got someone to talk to while I'm at work. But slowly, I started noticing things. Small things. Her phone would light up with his name late at night. She'd mention him in casual conversations too often. Greg said this. Greg told me that. One time, I came home early and saw them sitting at the kitchen table, talking in hushed voices. When they noticed me, they both froze for a split second before smiling like nothing happened. It was that pause, that half second, that stuck in my head. Still, I brushed it off. I trusted them both completely. After all, they'd known each other almost as long as I'd known her. A few months later, Linda became distant. She stopped looking me in the eye when she talked. She'd laugh at her phone, then quickly set it face down. Our conversations became short, mechanical. I thought maybe it was menopause, stress, something at work. One night, she said she was going out with some of her co-workers. I offered to drive her, but she said they were meeting downtown, and she didn't want me to wait up. Something felt off. I waited until she left, then followed her car. I felt like an idiot doing it, a jealous teenager. But my gut was screaming at me. She didn't go downtown. She drove to a motel. When she got out, I saw Greg's car already parked there. That moment, I swear to God, felt like someone took a crowbar to my chest. I didn't confront them right away. I drove home and sat in the driveway for hours. I stared at the steering wheel, hands shaking, trying to convince myself I didn't just see what I saw. Maybe it was something else. Maybe they were meeting for some reason I didn't understand. But deep down I knew. I confronted her the next morning. She tried to deny it at first, but when I told her I'd seen them, she broke down, said it just happened, that she didn't mean for it to go that far, that she felt lonely. I just stood there listening. 27 years together, and that's what it came down to. It just happened. Greg called later that day. I didn't pick up. He left a voicemail. Said he was sorry, that he'd messed up, that he didn't want to ruin our friendship. I didn't respond. I couldn't. For weeks, I went through the motions, work, home, sleep. I didn't tell anyone, not even my kids. I couldn't face the pity in their eyes. The nights were the worst. I'd lie awake and replay every memory, every laugh, every cookout, every time Greg and I toasted a brotherhood. All lies. About a month later, I got a text from Greg's wife. She'd found out too. Said she wanted to meet just to talk. We met at a small diner outside town. She looked hollow, broken in the same way I felt. We didn't talk much. Just sat there, drinking bad coffee and sharing that awful, quiet understanding that only betrayed people share. Before leaving, she said something that stuck with me. They didn't just cheat on us. They killed something we can't get back. And she was right. It wasn't just the act. It was the trust, the foundation, the years, the way you look at someone and know, or think you know, who they are. The divorce papers came 2 months later. Linda cried when she signed them. I didn't. I was past that. I felt nothing, just empty. I moved out, found a small place near the edge of town. I quit the shop and started doing small repairs for old clients. I stopped talking to most people. Greg moved away with his family, what was left of it. Anyway, I haven't seen him since. Linda tried to reach out once, saying she wanted to apologize properly. I deleted the message before finishing it. Forgiveness wasn't even a concept I could imagine back then. At night, I'd pour a drink, sit on the porch, and stare at the stars, wondering how two people I loved most could burn my life down in silence. That was 3 years ago. And even though this is just part one of my story, I can tell you this. Time doesn't heal everything. It just dulls the pain enough for you to carry it. I'm not angry anymore, but I'm not whole either. Just tired. And tonight, I finally decided to share this because maybe somewhere out there, another man is sitting in the dark, trying to make sense of the same kind of pain. If you are, brother, you're not alone. It's strange what happens when your life collapses. At first, you think you'll drown in the noise, the shouting, the texts, the anger, the sleepless nights. But eventually, all that fades, and what's left is silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. After the divorce, I learned how quiet a house can be when nobody's waiting for you. The hum of the fridge, the creak of the floorboards, the sound of your own breathing feels too loud. I didn't know what to do with myself. For almost 30 years, I had routines built around someone else. Her favorite coffee, our Friday movie nights, the way she'd steal the blanket and pretend it was an accident. Now all that was gone. I tried filling the void, fixing cars again, watching TV late into the night, scrolling through old photos I couldn't bring myself to delete. My hands always needed to be busy because the moment they weren't, the memories came flooding back. And when you're a man in your 50s, nobody really talks to you about heartbreak. You're supposed to man up, move on, find someone else. But how do you move on from a life you built brick by brick, only to realize it was sitting on quicksand? The first few months were the worst. I barely ate. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and stare at the ceiling until sunrise. I'd replay every conversation with Greg and Linda, searching for clues I missed, moments when their eyes lingered too long, when laughter carried a hidden tone. I started questioning my own sanity. How could I have been that blind? I avoided people, stopped answering calls. My daughter tried to visit a few times, but I'd tell her I was fine. I wasn't, but I didn't want her to see what I'd become, an old man haunted by ghosts of two people who no longer cared. One night, I got drunk, properly drunk, for the first time in years. Sat out on the porch with a bottle of whiskey and started talking to the air like some lunatic. I told Greg everything I never said, how I trusted him more than my own brothers, how I'd have taken a bullet for him, how he threw it all away for a few hours of pleasure. At some point, I started laughing, then crying. That's the part nobody tells you about betrayal. It breaks you in ways you don't expect. It's not the anger that eats you alive. It's the emptiness, the loss of meaning. A few weeks later, my neighbor, an old man named Pete, knocked on my door. He's a widower, Vietnam vet, tough as nails. He looked me up and down and said, "You look like hell, son. Come help me fix my fence." It wasn't a request. So I went. We spent the day working in silence, hammering, cutting, sweating under the sun. When we were done, he handed me a beer and said, "Pain's like rust. If you don't move, it eats through you." I didn't say anything, but that line stuck with me. Rust. That's exactly what I've been doing. Sitting still, letting it eat me alive. Over the next few months, Pete started dragging me out more often, fixing things for neighbors, helping with odd jobs, going fishing on weekends. I didn't talk much, but just being outside, working with my hands again, reminded me there was still life beyond the wreckage. I also started writing. Not for anyone, just for me, letters I'd never send. Some to Linda, some to Greg, some to myself. I poured out everything I'd been holding in, the anger, the regret, the longing, even the guilt for still missing her sometimes. That's another ugly truth no one admits. You can hate the person who hurt you and still miss them. Love doesn't switch off like a light. It fades, painfully, like an old photograph left in the sun. Around the 1-year mark, something shifted. It wasn't some big, cinematic breakthrough. No grand realization. Just quiet acceptance. I woke up one morning, made my coffee, sat by the window, and realized I hadn't thought about them for a few days. The weight was still there, but lighter somehow. The kind of ache you can live with. That same week, I went to visit my son. He's got 2 kids of his own now, my grandkids. They ran up to me yelling, "Grandpa." And for the first time in a long time, I felt something real, pure. I stayed the whole weekend. My daughter-in-law made breakfast, my son grilled steaks. The kids played in the yard. I sat there watching them and thought, this is what matters. Not the betrayal, not the lies. Just the simple, honest love of people who never left. That night, my son and I sat by the fire with a couple of beers. He asked quietly, "Do you ever think about Mom?" I paused, took a long sip before answering. Every now and then, but not the way I used to. He nodded, not pressing further. I think he understood that forgiveness, or whatever version of it I was heading toward, doesn't come with words. It comes with peace. The last time I heard from Linda was on Christmas Eve. She sent a simple text. "I hope you're doing okay. I'm sorry for everything." I stared at it for a while. 3 years ago, that message would have torn me apart. This time I just whispered, "I know," and deleted it, because by then I had already forgiven her, not for her sake, but for mine. Holding on to hate was like drinking poison and expecting her to die. I still haven't forgiven Greg. Not fully. Maybe I never will. But I've stopped letting him live rent-free in my head. I'm not writing this to sound wise or enlightened. I'm just an old man who's seen how fast everything you love can vanish. And I've learned this. When the people you trust betray you, you have 2 choices. Let it destroy you or let it teach you who you really are. I chose the second, eventually. Not because I'm strong, but because staying broken forever felt worse. And maybe that's what forgiveness really is. Not forgetting, not excusing, but deciding you're tired of bleeding. If you made it this far, thanks for reading. If you're an older guy like me, sitting alone, wondering if life still has anything left for you, it does. You just have to build it again. One small, honest day at a time. It's been 4 years since the divorce. Sometimes I still catch myself setting 2 coffee mugs out in the morning before realizing there's no one else to drink it. Habit dies slower than love. But I'm okay now. Truly okay. Life has settled into something simple and peaceful. I do repair work around town, play cards with the old guys at the barbershop, visit my grandkids every other weekend. The loneliness isn't gone, but it's no longer a wound. It's a scar, smooth and quiet. I don't think about Greg or Linda much anymore. But life has a funny way of circling back when you least expect it. Last spring, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. It was Greg's wife. Well, ex-wife. Her voice trembled when she said my name. "I thought you should know. Greg's in the hospital. Stroke. It's bad." For a long moment, I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, holding the phone, feeling the old anger stirring, that cold bitterness I thought I'd buried years ago. She continued, "He asked for you." That line hit me harder than I expected. I didn't owe him anything, not after what he did. But part of me, the part that still remembered our younger days, greasy hands under a car hood, laughing over cheap beer, couldn't ignore it. So I went. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and time. I found him in a dim room, hooked up to machines, looking nothing like the man I used to know. He'd lost weight, his skin pale and thin. His right side was paralyzed. He could barely move, but when he saw me, his eyes filled with tears. For a second, I almost turned around and left, but I didn't. I pulled up a chair and sat down beside him. He tried to speak, but his words came out broken, slurred. "Tom, I'm sorry." I just stared at him. For years' worth of pain, anger, and silence sat between us like a wall. I wanted to yell, to ask why he destroyed something sacred, why he betrayed a man who would have given him anything. But looking at him, frail, helpless, trapped inside a body that had finally betrayed him, I realized there was nothing left to say. So instead, I said quietly, I know. He started crying. I didn't. I just sat there, listening to the steady beep of the heart monitor, thinking how strange it was. The man who once took everything from me now lying there, waiting for forgiveness like a dying prayer. I stayed maybe 15 minutes. When I got up to leave, he reached out with his good hand and grabbed mine weakly. You were my brother, he whispered. I nodded once. You were mine, too. And that was it. The last thing either of us ever said to each other. He passed 2 days later. I didn't go to the funeral, but I did drive out to the lake we use to fish at, the one just outside town. I sat there for a long time, watching the sun go down over the water. It was quiet, that kind of stillness that feels like closure. I said his name out loud once, just once, and then I let it go. For the first time, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Forgiveness hadn't come like lightning or tears. It came like an old friend, arriving quietly after years apart. I didn't forgive him for what he did. I forgave him for what it did to me, for the way it hardened me, made me bitter, made me afraid to live. That night, as I sat by the lake, I felt something inside me finally loosen. I saw Linda one more time. Two. It was months later, at the grocery store of all places. She looked older, tired, but calm. We locked eyes for a moment, both unsure how to react. She smiled gently and said, Hi, Tom. I nodded. Hey, Linda. We stood there in silence for a few seconds before she said, You look good. I'm glad you're okay. And for once, I meant it when I replied, You too. There was no bitterness, no sting. Just two people who had once shared a lifetime and now shared a quiet understanding. We weren't lovers. We weren't enemies. Just two survivors of the same storm. She left first. I watched her walk away, turned back to my cart, and kept shopping. No sadness, no anger, just peace. That night, I sat on my porch again, same spot I used to sit when everything fell apart. Only this time, the air felt lighter, the stars brighter. You spend years thinking forgiveness is a gift you give the other person. But the truth is, it's the gift you give yourself, so you can finally sleep without ghosts in your chest. I still live alone. I still make too much coffee in the morning. I still have quiet nights where the house feels too big. But I'm not broken anymore. If you've been through betrayal, real, gut-deep betrayal, you know there's no going back to who you were before. But you can still build something new out of what's left. Maybe even something better. I'm writing this because I know a lot of men my age keep everything bottled up. We don't talk. We carry the pain until it eats us alive. But I learned this. You don't have to win. You just have to let go. Forgive, not for them, for yourself, so you can breathe again. And tonight, for the first time in years, I finally can.